Jessica Jones is the second in a planned series of brand new Netflix shows based on the street-level side of the ever-expanding Marvel Universe. Now, as I mentioned in my Daredevil review, that character was a no-brainer for TV. He had decades worth of material to draw on, he had been TV-ready longer than just about anybody else. Jessica Jones, on the other hand, is a completely different animal, as she really only has one major story to draw upon, Brian Michael Bendis' neo-noir Alias. So having her show be the follow-up to Daredevil was a very ballsy, very admittedly Marvel kind of move, and one that I think I can say paid off, but I'll get more into that. Like the comic it's based on, the show tells the story of a short-tempered alcoholic private detective named Jessica Jones, played by Breaking Bad's Christian Ritter. When we first meet Jess, she's in the process of trying to rebuild her life after a very traumatizing event that's left her a shell of a person, always looking over her shoulder and always living in constant fear. Did I also mention she has super strength? Because that's kind of important. Ritter really commands the screen in this role. Jess is a truly unpredictable type of hero who at any moment you feel could do something good, something bad, or more likely something very self-destructive. She has way more in common with characters like Ray Donovan or Tony Soprano than, say, Black Widow. And when I say she drinks, I really mean it. This isn't the happy-go-lucky drunk Iron Man from the movies. This is real, sad, hard-to-watch, fall-down kind of drunk. Jess spends the whole series not just battling her own demons, but also the idea of what makes a hero. You see, in the comics, she was a superhero who went by the name Jewel, but after a horrible incident, she ended up becoming a PI. In the show, they make it out that she was just beginning her superhero career when her life all went to hell. When Jess takes what she thinks will just be another simple case of small-town girl running away from home, she is quickly thrown right into having to confront her past trauma head-on. That trauma has a name, and it's Kilgrave, played by Doctor Who's David Tennant in one of the most gonzo, go-for-broke villain performances we've seen in a very long time. You see, this guy has the power to control people's minds and make you more or less into his slave. He's a guy motivated not by some grand villainous vision, but by boredom most of the time. He plays life with the cheats turned on, so when he thinks he's found someone who can challenge him, like Jessica, you bet he obsesses over her like nobody's business. And just when you think Kilgrave is about to become one of those charming Joker-esque villains, they rein him back in by reminding you what a total sleaze he is. But then, the show goes a step further than even the comics ever did by giving him a new sympathetic backstory, before pulling the rug out from under you and making you hate him all over again. They never do call him the Purple Man like they do in the comics, and his skin never gets turned a purple color, but literally every inch of this show is draped in the color purple anyway, so I can't complain all that much. Speaking of complaints, one of the more valid ones about the MCU is that the villains are pretty one-dimensional and forgettable, and that's not exactly wrong most of the time. But I can happily say after Kingpin and now Kilgrave, the Netflix shows have really proven themselves as the place for villains to shine every bit as bright, or maybe even brighter than the heroes they fight. What's really clever about this show's hero-villain dynamic is that even though Jess is stronger, she just can't beat up Kilgrave and be done with it. In fact, a good chunk of the series is just her trying to get people to believe that someone like this could even exist. Yes, in the very same world where aliens have invaded and green monsters joined forces with Norse gods to stop them, people still don't want to dare believe someone could be powerful enough to take away their free will. While the head-to-head clash between Jess and Kilgrave makes up the backbone of the show, it's not the only focus. Like I said, Alias was one series, so the show needed some more material to fill up 13 episodes. We have the New York power lawyer love triangle, Jess's many colorful apartment neighbors, Jess's best friend and adopted sister, Patricia Patsy Walker, aka Hellcat, the Marvel hero, dealing with her own issues and relationships with Al Simpson, an ex-GI turned cop with ties to a Black Ops super soldier program. Oh, and how could I possibly forget Mike Coulter in an amazing career-defining turn as Luke Cage, aka the next guy to be getting a Netflix show. His very unconventional romance with Jess is a real gut-wrencher, but also very sweet and sometimes very steamy. Yes, if Daredevil pushed the envelope with violence, then Jessica Jones decides to push sex further than anything we've ever seen before. If that all sounds like a lot to take in, it's really not. In fact, I'm gonna come right out and say it. Jessica Jones Season 1 has a much better pacing and structure than Daredevil Season 1 did. Maybe that's because it uses a much more familiar episodic format, but it could just be me. Obviously, like most Netflix original series, they want you to binge watch, and it's rewarding rewarding to binge watch, but there's also good stopping points. This is also yet another show that dispenses with the whole superhero origin story by slowly dropping info all throughout the series in chunks instead of all at once. This keeps the mystery of who and what our hero actually is going for a good long time. In a weird way, Jessica Jones also kind of ends up being more of a procedural with a case/mission of the week style structure than even the show about the lawyer superhero did. Wrap your brain around that one, why don't ya? Daredevil was of course a show that wowed audiences with its approach to fight scenes, all very brutal and very stylish at the same time with a bunch of ninja flips thrown in there. Jessica Jones goes the other way completely with the action. You see, she's super strong, and because of that, she doesn't have to try very hard. She picks people up and throws them around like this was some kind of unfair playground fight. Of course, the wrinkle is she must also hold back because 9 times out of 10 she's fighting someone who's been mind controlled. This leads to some very compelling scenarios. If I had to pick up on one major theme from Jessica Jones Season 1, it would be the idea of being made a whole again, as this is reflected in pretty much all of the characters, heroes and villains. Jess is trying to rebuild her life, Luke is trying to build a business after getting out of jail, even Jerry the lawyer is dealing with a messy divorce. Like all the other Marvel properties, this one is absolutely filled to bursting with references and in-jokes, yet it also shows a surprising amount of restraint. Daredevil, for one, never shows up, but that's not to say his presence is not felt in a big way. Perhaps the largest lasting effect Jessica Jones as a series has is how it really opens up this idea about more and more people in this world getting superpowers, but not just getting them from a number of different sources too. There's a bit near the tail end of the show when Luke Cage goes to a hospital and one of the nurses responds to him by saying, "Oh, you're one of them." Who could she be referring to? Is she referring to Inhumans? Is she referring to Asgardians? She could be referring to anything. If you were a big fan of the Alias comic, love the MCU, or just in the mood for a slick neo-noir story, then Jessica Jones is the binge-watching show you've been waiting for. It fixes a ton of the issues had by Daredevil Season 1, introduces a great new female lead into the ever-expanding Marvel canon, and also in many ways might very well be one of the more accessible Marvel properties to date. Whether or not it's better than Daredevil is certainly up for debate, a debate for another day, but all the same, Jessica Jones should make you smile. Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching my newest video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you'll feel like checking out some more videos I have on offer here at Cape Joel.